Donald Trump's inauguration, and people are promising to cause as much chaos as possible. Now, we know there's going to be, I guarantee there's probably going to be about 1 million people there, Owen, there in D.C. to witness this epic event. But there's going to be a lot of people there protesting. They are absolutely trying to say, not my president, even though, hashtag he is going to be your president come January 20th. But we've actually got Donald Trump's nemesis, Rosie O'Donnell, calling for martial law to delay the inaugurations. She says, I fully support imposing martial law, delaying the inauguration until Trump is cleared of all charges. So, we knew that
what charges,
Piggy
Rosie?
Or whatever. Exactly. Is to make sure he doesn't have ties to Russia.
Miss Piggy.
She's going on the debunked dossier that was going around. But, facts do not matter. They just want to stop Donald Trump no matter what. But it's interesting because martial law might need to be declared over the amount of protests that are planned. Protesters are actually planning to paralyze the inauguration with traffic jams. They say that, we want it to be mostly peaceful, but, if something happens, that's okay. They're calling for mass riots, and they're opposing the peaceful Trump transition. Even though President Barack Obama came out and was sure to say that it's going to be this peaceful transition, they are saying, hell no, we won't go. He's not going to be my president. And, so just very interesting to see what happens there. You'll actually be at the inauguration.
Well, and there's this, first of all, Rosie O'Donnell is completely out of her mind. Okay, so we'll just leave that there. I don't even know if she knows what martial law is, but it's amazing. There's this dynamic, okay? There's this competitive dynamic where you want to have the last laugh, right? You want to have the last say. If you like going and playing basketball, like pick up basketball like I do, you want to win the last game. You want to walk out of there victorious. And this is like that last game. This is their last chance to try to win. They have lost every step of the way until the inauguration, so they will pull out all the stops to try to walk out of here victorious. Of course, there's nothing that they can do to actually stop the inauguration of Donald Trump. Now, they can disrupt it. They can riot. They can protest. I'm expecting to see, in fact, I'm expecting the unexpected. I don't even know what I'm going to see there, and we'll get into some of the stuff that we are expecting. But, what you talked about here, how they're trying to create all of this chaos, create this madness, civil unrest. People like Madonna and all these celebrities and the people in the media that we're going to talk about during this segment, they know that this isn't going to have an impact. They know that there's nothing they can do to stop the inauguration. The only reason these people are doing this is to try to foment and incite the citizens who are so upset about this, the sheeple, to go out there and actually do the groundwork. That's what this is. This is a psychological operation being run by the establishment, by the leftists in Hollywood, to basically get the low-level minions out there, the anti-Trump minions who are brainwashed sheeple, to go out there and actually be the boots on the ground, cause the civil unrest. Many of them will be arrested. Right. Many of them will probably be pepper sprayed or worse. Who knows?
They just want to do whatever it possible to delegitimize Trump, and they want to just cause as much of a scene as possible to make all of the news. I mean, what do you think the news shows are going to be? All the fake news who are thoroughly offended and put in their place by Donald Trump. Do you think that they're going to be talking about how regal the first lady looks and how beautiful she is and what a wonder, Donald Trump's going to be the first poet in the White House, how they were just like basically saying President Obama was like hailing the second coming of Christ, was now taking office.
Well, he's a good birth certificate forger. I'll give him that.
They are going to be focusing on the rabid left and all of these violent protests. We'll see if they, if they're calling for martial law or if they're calling for the National Guard to come in, if they start burning down D.C. and where all of these D.C. establishment media elites live. So we'll see if they like that, if they're tearing up their town.
You know what? If that's going to happen, I don't think that type of activity will take place until later in the night. If stuff like that happens, that's usually stuff that goes down in the dark of night.
They want to take to the streets, protest, blockade, disrupt, intervene, sit in, walk out, rise up, make more noise and good trouble than the establishment can bear. So that's what they want. They want to stop the parade. That's why we have Donald Trump unveiling his new Cadillac presidential limousine. It's going to have a tear gas cannon and a shotgun on it. So they're going to be rolling this out for the protests. I mean, it's going to be called the Beast. So it's going to be making its first public appearance there. But what's interesting, you brought this story to my attention earlier about the commanding general of the D.C. National Guard is going to be removed from his post at 12:01 once Donald Trump takes the oath of office. And so, of course, we've pointed out that Donald Trump, his administration has said all of the presidential appointees of President Barack Obama need to leave their post immediately upon the transition of power. And so it's interesting with this DC National Guard, the commander general there is a presidential appointee. So he's been fully in charge of setting everything up for this inaugural parade and all of the safety concerns surrounding that. He'll send his guys out, but he's not going to be able to welcome them back once they're done for the day because he'll be gone. And they don't really have a plan for who is going to be replacing him. So I know you had kind of an interesting take of who's making this call.
So this is what's interesting about this, because you actually reminded me about the appointments thing, and that explains why he's being removed. And this is a story from the Washington Post. And you would think, considering that fact, that they would use this to twist and basically blame Donald Trump for anything that goes down, because that's the only angle they take is blame Donald Trump.
There's basically no leader in command. So if stuff does start getting crazy.
But here's what's interesting, though. They talk about in this article, they're like, oh, we have no idea why. Why is he stepping down? Why is he down? Okay, well, they don't even mention that. Is that the case? It does not mention whether this is a Trump call or Obama call. We would assume, based on what Trump said, it's a Trump call. But the fact the Washington Post doesn't mention that is kind of a head scratcher. But it's interesting. First of all, let's
talk about that a little bit, why that's a head scratcher. Because first of all, if President Obama was the one that, for instance, made this call and said, hey, I appointed you, so I want you to step down, that basically is going to set it up to where the National Guard there in D.C. has no leader in command to call them out to the streets if there is massive civil unrest.
So my understanding is that they basically already have a plan in place. They've been working with the DC police and Secret Service and other top district officials to get this plan in place. And they already knew he was going to step down before time. So my guess is,
well, then why? It's like, why is he saying, well, I have no idea what happened. I'm just a soldier, so I just take my orders and I do it. It's fine with me.
And that's the head scratcher, especially considering they're not blaming this on Trump yet.
Well, and it's also interesting because we have so many people calling for martial law and saying that they want President Obama to stay in until they can prove that, Trump doesn't have any Russia ties. It'll be interesting because if they do not have the DC National Guard commander, then there's not going to be anyone to follow through with the martial law and for the calling of martial law. There will be no
again, though, I think
it's almost like taking out the guy who could, he's under President Obama's appointment.
I still feel like there's some sort of contingency plan for that. I would highly doubt that they would have themselves set up to be in that situation unless they wanted to try to sabotage Donald Trump in some way, shape, or form.
Well, but, you said, anything could happen.
But thinking about this, actually, I just had this realization. If they're going to, because we know they're going to try to do everything, they might actually try to start this stuff the night of the deplorable, which is the night before the inauguration, because that, and you don't want to hand people ideas or blueprints, but we talked about that earlier too. But I mean, that would actually probably be what would have to bring in a martial law type scenario. History shows you this type of protest and stuff isn't as effective during the day. It usually doesn't get violent during the day. It usually gets violence. The miscreants come out at night when they can hide in the cover of dark.
And that's the thing is, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be going to the deplorable, protesters against the people at the deplorable, saying that they're, racist and all of these alt-right white supremacist groups. So,
everything from the media, everything from the celebrities to try to demonize Donald Trump, try to get these protests even, encourage more people. But I'll say this, Bikers for Trump have vowed to be there to protect all of the deplorables and to keep the crybaby leftists from inciting any violence or doing any damage. So how about that? Some volunteers for the Biker for Trump going to be helping Secret Service, DC Police, and the National Guard.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a very exciting time, epic times all around. I know you guys will be there on the ground. We'll be here reporting live. I know we're doing at least a 14-hour broadcast. Jones will take it even longer than that, I'm sure. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the show tonight and the nightly news. We will see you here again next Monday, 7 p.m.